Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm speaking about one of the most important diseases, and I'll advise if the patient can fast the holy moon of Ramadan or not. This disease is what is known as vitiligo. Vitiligo is hypopigmentation of the skin, or even absence of the skin pigments. Skin pigments are related to certain types of cells, which are called melanocytes. Melanocytes are present below the epidermis, between the epidermis, which is the superficial layer of the skin, and the dermis, which is the deep layer of the skin. These melanocytes about nanograms, and you have to imagine that this difference in nanograms between a person and another person differentiate between a person with white skinned and another person who is black skinned. Now I can say that this hypopigmentation is related to certain types of theories. We cannot say that there is a certain cause which is the main cause of vitiligo, but there are three theories. The first theory is what is called endocrine theory. Any decrease or any interference in the function of any endocrine gland may affect the skin. The main gland is that gland present in front of the neck, which is the thyroid gland. Hypofunction in the thyroid gland may be accompanied by hypopigmentation of the skin, or even absence of skin pigments, which is known as vitiligo. This is the first theory. Another theory is what is known as psychological theory. There is psychic trauma which affects the patient and leads to, which is accompanied by decrease in the skin pigmentation. And this psychic trauma which affects the person is accompanied by hypo or absence of pigments of the skin. This leads alternatively to formation of another psychic trauma. And now there is a vicious circle. Psychic trauma accompanied by vitiligo, and vitiligo accompanied by psychic trauma. We don't know what is the first and what is the second, but there is a result in front of us, which is hypopigmentation or absence of pigments, which is vitiligo. This is the second theory. The third theory, which is the most accepted to us, is what is known as disturbance in the immunological response of the skin. The skin, there is certain types of antibodies in the skin which imagines that these melanocytes, or the big cells responsible for formation of the pigments of the skin, are foreign substances, and start to form antibodies against these foreign melanocytes. This leads to a struggle and the absence of the pigments of the skin. This theory is the most accepted theory to us. Now, the patient is affected by vitiligo. There is psychological theory, there is endocrine theory, there is also the disturbance theory. Now, if this patient has fasted Ramadan, there is two main results. The first one is that the psychic trauma will decrease. The patient will be quiet and calm, and by fasting there is a result which leads to good appearance of the skin, and this is the first result. The second result from fasting is that the immunological response of the skin will start to decrease, and then the patient's skin will interfere with these melanocytes as accepted part of the body, and so the patient, by fasting Ramadan, can treat this disease, which is one of the serious diseases all over the body. Now, what about the differential diagnosis of this disease? As I said, there is absence of pigments. This absence of pigments may be vitiligo as first. Secondly, it may be one of the sexually transmitted diseases. For example, accompanies syphilis or accompanies even AIDS. These two diseases can be accompanied or can be followed by hypopigmentation or even absence of pigments. Also, we can find vitiligo accompanies a known burn. Any burn which affects the body can be accompanied by change in the skin. These multiple changes in the skin may be end in absence of pigments and the area of absence of pigmentation of the skin. Now, let's shift to treatment of this disease. Treatment of this disease passes in many ways. The first way in treatment of hypopigmentation or absence of pigments or vitiligo is by the medical treatment. And the medical treatment may be either by drugs, and most of the drugs given to the patient can affect the liver, and therefore most of them are contraindicated except under the supervision of the doctor. Secondly, what is known as ultrasound. The patient can be treated by giving him many settings of ultrasound, and this ultrasound can affect the skin. But unfortunately, not more than 10% of cases can respond. Now, we shift to the role of plastic surgery in treatment of this vitiligo. Previously, we can perform this treatment by excision of areas of absence of pigments or areas of vitiligo and putting wet skin grafts or even closing primary. We found that about 60% of cases cure, and the remaining part of cases, 3 or 4 years later, can return back by vitiligo in the same areas. The most recent treatment is that we can perform now 2 main operations. The first operation, what is known as micropigmentation. Micropigmentation, we give certain types of planet pigments, and we bring these planet pigments and put inside the skin, and these planet pigments are agreed from the FDA all over the world. And this is the first line of treatment. The second recent line of treatment is what is known as cellular implantation of cells from the patient inside the areas of vitiligo. And the most recent is that we can perform or operate cellular implantation plus micropigmentation. Now, I can say that fasting the holy moon of Ramadan is a must, because this fasting can regulate the psychological case of the patient, the psychological mood of this patient. This is number one. And number two, the fasting of Ramadan can interfere with the antigen antibody reaction, which may end in formation of vitiligo and leads to its inhibition. So by fasting holy moon of Ramadan, many cases can be in relief and can be treated. So my advice is that fasting the holy moon of Ramadan is a must for treatment of this case of vitiligo. Thank you.